Welcome back. I am Melanie Holtz of Lo Schiavo Genealogica. Today we're going to talk about how do I determine my eligibility for Italian citizenship. Now, not everyone who has Italian ancestors is eligible, but people are finding and are surprised to find the majority of the people do have eligibility for Italian citizenship. How do you determine that? The Italian nationality law does consist of several sections, 8, 9 sections, different parts of the law that you have to consider. So you can look at, did my Italian immigrant ancestor naturalize? Meaning, did they become a U.S. citizen or a citizen of the country they immigrated to? That doesn't necessarily put you out of the running if they did become a citizen. It just could not have occurred before the birth of the child that you descend from. So that's an important consideration. It also could not have occurred before July 1 of 1912, because the law states that in that instance, if the naturalization was that early, that the immigrant, their spouse, and all descendants in perpetuity lost the right to citizenship. Also, another key thing to look at is something I talked about in a different video is, are you a 1948 case? Do you have descent from a female? These particular cases don't. If you have descent from a female whose child was born after 1948, because 1948 was the year that females started to be able to pass citizenship, then this is an issue that means that you have to take it before a court in Italy. Years ago, that would have meant that absolutely no ability to apply for Italian citizenship. But Italy's Supreme Court, one of their highest courts, has declared that part of the law unconstitutional and discriminatory. But they have done nothing to amend the law. So while these cases are being allowed to be brought before an immigration court in Italy, they're not doing anything to amend the law. So these cases, for now, always have to go, before an immigration court. But they are being won all the time. So a lot of people 10, 15, who looked at this 10, 15 years ago and were told no because they had descent from a female, and that's the only line that they had, are finding out now that it is a possibility. They just need to use a court case. Also, another part of the law that affects those with ancestry from the far northeast of Italy is certain areas of the far northeast were not always part of Italy. Some of those areas were part of Austria-Hungary at different points in time. So if your ancestor came from one of those areas and they immigrated prior to 1920, when the Treaty of Versailles went into effect there, essentially pulling most of those areas into Italy, then you're likely not eligible for citizenship because of that. Because when they left an area that was not considered Italy at that time. But we can always look at that. The boundary line up there is curving, and not every single town in the far northeast makes you ineligible if your ancestor came from that. So we would need to look at the town they came from individually. We do have a detail sheet on my website, www.italyancestry.com. If you can fill that out for me and send it to me by email, I would be glad to do a free 1-hour evaluation of eligibility. If you have all 4 great-grandparents that were immigrants, please fill out a form for all of them. Because we may find that you're not eligible through 3 of your lines, but you are through 1. So I'll look at all of them and see which is or isn't eligible and provide a recommendation to you at that point. If in the 1 hour free research, it's still not clear that whether or not you have a viable line, then I will tell you that. I'll be honest. And most times in those instances, I do suggest that you go ahead, that we go ahead and do some naturalization research. That's normally the point where I say, I can't see online when the naturalization occurred. I can see that it happened, but I can't tell whether it was before the birth of the child you descend from or something along those lines. So I normally suggest some some naturalization research first, before you delve into the full citizenship project, just to make sure you actually are eligible. You don't want to get 10 months into a citizenship application, and find that that you're not eligible. Has that ever happened to us? As we're working through a client's citizenship application? Yes, but very rarely. Normally, records that are online, like the census, even copies of naturalizations online, World War I, World War II, draft registration cards, they can often provide clues as to whether the ancestors became U.S. citizens or were at that time U.S. Canadian citizens. When I use U.S., that's in general, in meaning in the immigration country. So keep that in mind as we're talking about this. So like I said, fill out the detail sheet, email it to me, and then I will get back to you with my suggestions. If you do have multiple lines, submit multiple detail sheets for each line. And also let me know if there's any kind of differences are there adopted children in the line? Are there foster children in the line? Each one of these would have special considerations as to whether the citizenship could be passed down to them or not. Okay. That's all for this one. And please don't forget to subscribe and let us know in the comments if you're finding these FAQs helpful. Thank you.